for every 24 hours. In the capital, Antananarivo, there's massive power shortages, like 4 to 6 hours every day. And many areas of the capital, Antananarivo, are without running water for 1 or 2 years.
And what do you make of, just the way that the president has responded and the way that the youth have also has responded to the presidency with regards to his plan of action, the fact that he's saying they're going to build solar panels. Why has this not been done up until promises are having to be made now?
The president has clearly said that he intends to finish his presidential term maybe until 2028, which angered the youth because they say he is at the 16th years of him being in power, and has had plenty of time to address those infrastructural challenges. So they decided that they will continue the protests. Whilst today it is quiet in Antananarivo, but in the other towns of Madagascar, there was still protests yesterday, and there's still some protests taking place today as we speak.
And just in wrapping up, Advocate Ramelison, the five main civil society organizations are calling on the Catholic Church led talks to prevent Madagascar from sinking into chaos and civil war. What's your take on this? Do you think the church could have a good standing and be able to resolve these issues?
Madagascar has a long history of political instability due to weakness of the institutions. So in 1991, in 2002, in 2009, there was unconstitutional changes of regime. The president, heads of states were forced to leave power after mass protests in the streets, and the churches, the Christian churches, tried to play a mediation role in those instances. Maybe the civil societies are calling on the churches to play that role again today.
Well, Advocate, it's been a pleasure chatting to you. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thanks to you.
That's Advocate Toki Ramelison, political analyst in Madagascar, joining us on the line.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Now we go to Malawi, where the president-elect, Dr. Peter Mutharika, is set to take oath of office on Saturday, alongside Vice President-elect Jane Ansah. Now, the former head of state staged a strong comeback in last month's election, securing 56.8% of the vote against incumbent President Lazarus Chakwera's 33%. Now, the government says several African leaders are expected to attend the inauguration ceremony. Channel Africa's reporter Michael Mbewe has more.
Malawi's political landscape has once again been reshaped by the return of Peter Mutharika to the presidency, marking one of the most dramatic comebacks in the country's democratic history. Having served as Malawi's fifth president from 2014 to 2020, Mutharika left office after a contentious election defeat, which many believed had closed the chapter of his political career. Yet, just 5 years later, at 85, he has reclaimed the highest office in the land, securing a decisive victory in the September 2025 presidential election. Speaking for the first time last week at a media briefing after the results were announced, Mutharika paid a moving homage to Malawians.
I thank you, the people of Malawi, for entrusting us with the responsibility to lead this nation for the next 5 years. This is not a victory for any individual or a party. It is a victory for our democracy, for our constitution, and most important, for every Malawian who believes in a better tomorrow.
Mutharika called for unity.
Fellow Malawians, the time for competition has ended. The time for cooperation has begun. Politics has played its part. Now the work of national transformation must take center stage. Today, I call upon every Malawian, regardless region, political party, or background, join hands as we chart a new path forward. This is the moment to put aside what divides us and embrace what unites us. We are one nation, one people, one destiny.
The Malawi president-elect also outlined the task ahead.
The challenges before us are real. Our economy must recover. Food must be available for everyone. Jobs must be created. Our healthcare and education systems must be strengthened. Infrastructure must be improved. And above all, we must rebuild trust in the public institutions.
Mutharika's triumph, winning 56.8% of the vote against incumbent Lazarus Chakwera's 33%, speaks not only to his enduring influence, but also to the shifting sentiments among Malawian voters. Malawians in diaspora have welcomed this development. In Johannesburg on Wednesday, we spoke to Hakim Habas.
Yeah, so far to say about the elections, they went very well. I think a lot of Malawians, they were waiting for this. They were waiting for change, big change. Since you see where we have been coming from, it was a long journey. A lot of people, they were suffering. So Malawians, they were waiting for this chance to arrive.
Abbas says the outgoing leadership was not for the people.
The leadership of Dr. Lazarus Chakwera, a lot of Malawians, they were not happy. They've suffered a lot in terms of hunger, poverty. That's why Malawians wanted to move on, to change the government, to accept the Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika to come over again.
However, he has a message for the incoming administration.
My message is they've seen the way this government which has fallen. Now, it's a big lesson, it's a big call for them to wake up. They have been in the government, but the Malawians, they give them another second chance to lead. So right now, I think it's for them now to move forward and to see where this government, the way they were failing, at least them now, they have to wake up. They have to tie their shoelaces and move on. And they need to help a lot of Malawians now. All eyes are on them.
Another Malawian, Maksud Kalinje, said change was needed.
No, we needed the transition. For 5 years, we have been in a situation whereby for some people, it's okay to survive, but for the local Malawians who are, like we can say, the real Malawians, the mere Malawians that are working every day hard to trying to put bread on the table every day, those ones, it was hard. So basically, the transition needed to be there because the current government, which is moving out, it was like too much corrupt just because they were using the money. They were making a system whereby only the rich people were benefiting, and then the poor people were struggling, and then instead of going up, they were going far down.
He said Malawians are not asking too much from their government, but an enabling environment to thrive.
Moving forward, Malawians don't require a lot. Like, they don't ask for much. It's mostly food. We can say mainly is food security and the cost of living. So the average Malawian doesn't go out to go to South Africa or Zambia to do other things. The average Malawian will rely on farming. They will know if the fertilizer is on a low price. Maybe they want to build a house, the iron sheets are at an affordable price, the cement is an affordable price. They won't require much. It's only those things the little things that some of the people won't mind that, okay, fine, this is just a foundation to something.
Michael Mbewe, Channel Africa News, Johannesburg.
AUSISA, the Association of Water and Sanitation Institution of South Africa, is a platform uniting Africa's water professionals. This November, Africa leads the conversation on water and sanitation. Join global and African leaders at the AUSISA Africa and Global South Dialogue 2025 from the 9th till the 12th of November at the Emperor's Palace, Johannesburg. From policy innovation, this is where action meets collaboration for a water-secure future. Register today at ausisa-watersan-dialogue.org or follow at AUSISA on social media. AUSISA, working together for sustainable water and sanitation security in Africa. Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update, only on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
It is 22 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Protests have erupted around the world after Israel intercepted boats carrying aid to Gaza and detained the activists on board. And those detained include 6 South Africans as well as an Irish senator. 6 South Africans are Nkosi Zwelivelile Mandela, also known as Mandla Mandela, Zukiswa Warner, an award-winning writer and cultural activist, Riaz Mula, a community leader and chairperson of his local welfare committee, Dr. Fatima Hendricks, an occupational therapist, mother of 2 and cancer survivor, Dr. Zahira Sumar, an international social impact and humanitarian leader, and Bashira Sumar, a management consultant, project manager, and socio-political activist. Let's take a listen to some of those who have been detained.
My name is Nkosi Zwelivelile Mandela. I'm a citizen of the Republic of South Africa. If you are receiving this video, it means that we have been intercepted and have been abducted by the apartheid state of Israel. I call on you to request our government to exert pressure for my immediate release.
My name is Zuki Shavana. I'm a South African citizen. If you're watching this, it means I have been kidnapped by the Israeli occupying forces and taken to Israel. Please tell the South African government to get me released. Stop the genocide, end the siege on Gaza, and free Palestine.
Assalamu alaikum, greetings to you all. I am Riaz Mullah from South Africa. If you are watching this, I have been kidnapped by the Israeli occupation forces and taken against my will to Israel. I appeal to all friends, family and governments to assist in the release of myself as well as my comrades. Thank you.
That is the voice of, those are the voices, rather, of some of the South Africans that have been detained. And to give us an update on the situation, we are joined on the line by Tariq Jenkins, convener of Save Our Sacred Lands. Tariq, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, we understand that all the South Africans on board the flotilla have been taken. Are there any more on one of the other boats?
No, it has been confirmed that all the South African delegates have been taken.
And do we know who all, well, we've just heard some of the voices of, for instance, Nkosi Zwelivelile Mandela and, Riaz Mullah as well as Zukiswa Warner. Do we know who the other people are? I know that Greta Thunberg is one of the people who have been taken. Who else has been taken? Do you have all the details of the people who have been taken?
Well, what I can tell you now is that apart from 2 small vessels that are outstanding, the entire flotilla fleet has been taken and is in the process of being taken. So there is no exception to that, and so of all the participating countries that that we're talking about, including their respective delegates. And what's important to note is that there was a decision that the country's delegates wouldn't be situated in single boats representing entire countries. They were actually separated and kind of split in their numbers across the entire fleet. So on each boat, for example, you would have a contingent of an international cohort of representation on each boat. So as each of the vessels have been boarded, this is impacting the arrangement that that was put in place.
We understand that not all the boats that were part of the flotilla were managed to continue on this journey to Gaza. Some of the boats remained in Turkey, if I'm not mistaken. What exactly happened there with those boats that ended up not taking part in the journey?
To travel this particular kind of distance, these boats had to go through, very specific and certain safety protocols and measures. And some of the boats, for example, because of the adverse weather, especially from Tunis side, the weather impacted, the mobility of some of these boats, and some of the boats just, were not deemed fit to continue the full journey.
Now, strikes have erupted around the world against the detention of those on board. We do understand that organizations have people based in other countries. Are they part of these demonstrations?
Absolutely. I think what is very powerful and unique about the contingency that we are dealing with in this global Sumut flotilla is that we have a range of people from all aspects of civil society, from artists to civil rights activists to members of parliaments, politicians, human rights defenders, legal heads, and across the board, and of course representatives from unions and organizations and umbrella bodies. So, large entities, for example, with various representation like Progressive International, and the whole plethora of human rights entities and so forth are indeed represented there. So I think what's very important as well is that now we have a situation where citizens of countries are under the lens, and so the protests that we are seeing are both in deep solidarity in terms of the global push to end the siege, to stop the genocide, to really upscale all manner of boycott, divestments, and sanctions against the Zionist state, but also calling for the immediate release of fellow citizens. And this is a very important moment, simply because when we talk about bringing the fight to the enemy, this is really global citizens who in effect have been failed by governments around the world in terms of really stopping the genocide that's unfolding and ensuring that this blockade is lifted, are now have gone in a very visceral and physical and intangible ways, have confronted the IOF in the most peaceful manner that is possible, and I think what's also really important, in broad daylight we actually see the extent to which the violation of international humanitarian law, the violation of laws of the sea, are being committed by the IOF against peace-loving people from all corners of our planet.
Of the world. Now, Tariq, we have run out of time, but I have to ask, South Africa's president calling on Israel to release those detained immediately. What can countries do to ensure their safe release?
The important thing here is to really pressure to put maximal pressure insofar as how governments and how industries are engaging with the Zionist entity. I think it's really important to push for deeper awareness and for action insofar as the immediate lifting of the blockade, stopping the genocide, as well as drawing how governments and countries are complicit in terms of trade arrangements, in terms of the need to stop mineral resources and so on, like coal, for example, in South Africa. the role
Well,
of
Tariq,
dietetics, and so on.
unfortunately, we have run out of time, and I am going to have to leave it there for today. But thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. That's Tariq Jenkins, a convener of Save Our Sacred Lands, joining us on the line. Our news headlines up next with Onel Nzinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Two Kenyan human rights activists have gone missing in Uganda after reportedly being abducted by armed men while attending opposition leader Bobi Wine's campaign event. The South African government says it is working hard on the ground to rescue citizens that are part of the global Sumut Flotilla campaign, which is heading to Gaza to deliver humanitarian aid. And rescue teams in Indonesia have said there are no more signs of life under the rubble of a school which collapsed in East Java on Monday. The unstable nature of the rubble has also highly hampered the search. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Tsinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports. On Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
And a very good afternoon from the sports desk. I am Musibudi Makura with the latest sports news. At the Sawa, so Israel's participation in football has not been included on the agenda for a FIFA Council meeting in Zurich later on today. Now, the meeting of FIFA's main decision-making body comes amid a mounting pressure on football authorities to sanction Israel after a United Nations Commission of Inquiry concluded just last month that Israel has committed a genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. So although the issue is not on the agenda, it would be discussed under some circumstances. Now, Israel's national team are currently participating in the European qualifiers for next year's FIFA Men's World Cup, while Israeli club Maccabi Tel Aviv are playing in the European League. Amnesty International is the latest body to urge FIFA, which organizes the World Cup, as well as UEFA, which organizes the European competitions, to suspend Israeli Football Association from the tournaments. Now, FIFA Vice President Victor Montanagani has also said that UEFA should make that decision. Onto the story now. Zimbabwe have named a squad packed with South African experience as they gear up for their final two World Cup qualifiers later on this month. Now, coach Michael Nice has called up 4 players currently active in the Betway Premiership in South Africa and 7 more with a past stints at South African clubs, highlighting the strong regional ties in his selection. So with no home venue cleared for international fixtures, Zimbabwe will host Bafana Bafana at Durban's Moses Mabhida Stadium in South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal province on the 10th of October, before facing off with Lesotho in Polokwane in the Limpopo province 3 days later. So though already out of the running for the 2026 finals, the Warriors of Zimbabwe are expected to play with pride. Amazulu striker Thando Ngwenya, as well as 40-year-old Marumo Gallants goalkeeper Washington Arubi, both featured in Zimbabwe's last outing in a narrow 1-0 defeat to Rwanda. Meanwhile, Mamelodi Sundowns' Devan Lunga returns from injury, with Magezi Alves Chipazeze joining the goalkeeping ranks in the squad. The International Olympic Committee said it will offer a number of sponsorships to help athletes train for next year's Asian Games as well as the Los Angeles Olympic Games in 2028. Now, following a meeting with the Palestinian National Olympic Committee yesterday, the ROC said it would provide these scholarships through its Olympic Solidarity Purse. This to help the region's athletes get ready for the Asian Youth Games in Bahrain, the Dhaka 2026 Youth Games, as well as the Ayoga 2026 Asian Games, as well as the LA 2028 Olympic Games. So about 50 Palestinian athletes are expected to benefit from this, with the main focus now being on qualifying for LA 2028. Only a small number of Palestinians usually compete at the Olympics, with a total number of athletes less than 10. In cricket news now, the South African women's cricket team will rely on an increase in batting depth to end its trophy drought in major ICC events. Now, the Women's World Cup is currently underway in India and Sri Lanka, and the Proteas will face a huge challenge in their opening match. They take on England in Guwahati, India on Friday. In past editions, the Proteas counted heavily on the top four batters to score runs. All-rounder Chloe Trahan believes this has changed, as she believes that the Proteas batters, all of them, are likely to contribute more runs to the team in this year's World Cup.
Yeah, we bat really deep, which is really important in a 50-over tournament like this. Just making sure that we can build partnerships at the back end if we do collapse a little bit in the middle. But just making sure that everyone understands their role. And yeah, it's just good to see that everyone's on board with that.
Now, rain on the Indian subcontinent could play a crucial role in results, and Trahan says that makes batting even more crucial at this year's tournament.
I know something we can't control is the weather, so it looks like it might be a lot of on and offs in the next couple of weeks. But I think just making sure that as a batting unit, you're staying in as long as you can. The wicket look a little bit like it takes a little bit of turn. So just making sure that you build lots of partnerships, and yeah, just bowl in the stumps and just make sure that you're taking your catches. I think that.
Right, so that concludes your sports news this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, remember to send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. The time has just gone 12:38 p.m. Central African time. I'm back with more sports news in the next hour for Channel Africa Sport. I am Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. This September, Channel Africa celebrates Heritage Month, a time to honor the stories, the rhythms, and the languages that make us who we are. Whether you're in Lagos or the shores of Zanzibar, to the mountains of Lesotho or the markets of Dakar, we are united in diversity.
Najivunia kuwa Mwafrika.
Kukondolera Afrika ndiye nduwake.
Proudly African and fabulous.
Let us preserve our languages. Let's embrace our uniqueness. Let's embrace our cultures and celebrate the beauty of our continent. Channel Africa, the African Perspective. Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you. A very good afternoon with the business update. I am Chandruko Ligege. The South African Spaza Shops Association is calling for fair access to government-owned buildings and urgent action to protect township economies. The association expressed deep concern about the ongoing marginalization of young entrepreneurs within the townships and informal business sectors. The association's president, Khutadzo Ramautswa, has called upon the government to open up buildings owned by the state for leasing to young traders as a means to foster economic empowerment and inclusive growth.
The systematic behavior hampers the growth of small business that are vital to the socio-economic government of our community. Furthermore, we are disturbed by the recent incident involving the destruction of small business such as street vendors, car washes and shop stalls in Tshwane and Johannesburg.
Anglo-American South Africa says its merger with Tech Resources will boost their presence as being a global leader in the mining industry. Chair of Anglo-American South African Management Board, Nolita Fakude, says entrepreneurs and small-medium enterprises will benefit and create job opportunities. Fakude addressed business leaders, investors and entrepreneurs at the Invest Fest 2025 in Johannesburg.
And what this means, rather, for South Africa is that we are even better positioned to support the attainment of our country's national priorities, including entrepreneurial development and the growth of small and medium enterprises, thus help reduce unemployment.
The Republic of Congo expects Parliament to pass a new gas code this month. This as the country seeks to attract more investment in a sector at the heart of its national development agenda. The code provides a legal framework for gas exploration, production and development in the country, which also hopes to double oil production to 500,000 barrels of oil equivalent by the turn of the decade. Tanzania's central bank has kept its benchmark interest rate steady at 5.75%, saying inflation was projected to remain stable. Bank of Tanzania Governor Emmanuel Tutuba says the decision reflects the projection of stable inflation within the target range of 3 to 5%. The governor says the growth of the economy is also expected to remain strong. The country's inflation has oscillated around 3% for the past 2 years. It stood at 3.4% year on year in August, up slightly from July's 3.3% reading. Asian fast fashion giant Shein has chosen France as the location to open its first permanent physical outlet. It will occupy concessions in department stores, first in Paris, followed by 5 others in additional French cities. Shein has told the BBC that France's influential global fashion market is a natural choice as the firm's test bed for physical stores. Let's have a look at financial indicators at this hour. $1 in Nigeria is 1,483 naira. In Botswana, 13 pula 20. Kenya, the dollar is 128 shilling. 518 Zambia 23 kwacha 86. BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is at 5.32. Russia 82 rubles 6. India 88 rupees 70. China 7 yuan 12. South Africa 17 rand 21 cents. $1 is trading at 74 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Commodities, gold is at $3,869, platinum at $1,574 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $65.54 a barrel. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 12:43 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Today on #Africa Update also, we focus on South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa having called on Israel to release those abducted after Israeli authorities intercepted boats carrying aid to Gaza. Ramaphosa says the interception in international waters off the coast of Gaza reinforces Israel's continued violation of international law and infliction of suffering, including starvation, on the people of Palestine. Our question to you today is, what message do you have for the Israeli government and those who are part of the flotilla? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406 9126 #Africa Update Us.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Our South Africa's Government Communication and Information Systems, the GCIS, is hosting a webinar to mark Cyber Security Month. The event will focus on promoting responsible use of online platforms and strengthening cybersecurity, bringing together public sector leaders, regulators, civil society, and law enforcement. The session will combine policy discussions with real-world insights from digital influencers and cyberbullying victims. And for more on this, we are joined on the line by Hendrik de Bruin, head of SADC Security Consulting, Checkpoint Software Technologies. Hendrik, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Hi, Lulu. Good afternoon to you and your listeners. Thank you very much for having me.
Now, Hendrik, let's begin with the importance of such a webinar being hosted by the GCIS.
Yeah, it is actually very significant. It's important for listeners to understand that cybersecurity is not just about data and information. There's the real possibility for real physical and personal financial damage which exists, that can be occurred due to cyber attacks. So it is very important for individuals to take cybersecurity very seriously. And by extension, also, if individuals take their cybersecurity seriously, by extension, they are also securing the organizations that they work for, as well as the platforms that they interact with. So talking about security and awareness, it is critical because awareness is really the starting point to address these type of cyber risks and cyber attacks. Understanding what threats exist, how attacks occur, and how cyber criminals are actually utilizing various techniques, tactics, and procedures to perpetrate these attacks. So, we have to start with awareness. And as South Africans, we are not strangers to crimes in the physical world. So, when we're driving late at night, some of us don't stop at red robots. Some of us do, but when you do, you have your head on a swivel. You're constantly looking to, identify threats that might be approaching your car for purposes of hijacking, etc. And we need to start, as South Africans, we need to start to practice the same vigilance and awareness when it comes to our digital world and our interactions on the digital world.
Now, what have been some of the biggest cybersecurity threats that have hit the African continent and the world at large?
Yeah, brilliant question. So, artificial intelligence, that's the buzzword going around for the past couple of years, really. But it has really played its part when it comes to cyber attacks. So what we have seen is, firstly, that traditional attacks, have increased not only in volume, but also in sophistication. And this is primarily due to the fact that artificial intelligence has significantly reduced the barriers of entry to cybercrime and cyber attacks. A good example of that would be phishing emails, where in the past it was very easy to spot a phishing email because it would have been typically written in broken or very poor English, bad grammar, bad spelling, etc. And those were key telltale signs that this might be a phishing attack. But now cyber criminals can very quickly generate very comprehensive emails utilizing tools like ChatGPT, Copilot, etc. So that's the one area. Then we also see deepfakes playing their part, where they make use of popular personalities to create a video that would lure individuals to various sites for Bitcoin trading or any other type of activities. And those also lead to scams and other types of cyber attacks. And then also, we also in the past, in June, we also had an interview where we spoke about TikTok, where cyber criminals utilized AI to create victims, once again luring them into installing various malware on their devices, etc. So artificial intelligence is a big playing factor at this stage. We also see a lot of identity-related attacks. So these identity-related attacks typically happen when we find user credentials on places like the dark web. So hackers are really not even hacking anymore. They are actually logging in because they have the ability to purchase existing credentials on the dark web. And those credentials end up on the dark web due to attacks like phishing and info stealers, etc. So that is some of the other attack vectors that we see is related to identity. And then also we have seen quite a lot of activities related to the telecom sector. So we had a lot of organizations, telecom providers in South Africa as well as Namibia getting attacked over the last year. And what we see as the primary motivating factors behind that is the fact that these telecom organizations are really part of critical national infrastructure. They have a very important place within communication within the continent. And then also they sit on a large amount of personal information that these attackers are also after, because that's what they use for additional attacks like identity theft, where they would utilize the individual's personal identifiable information to open up potentially new lines of credit, etc. And that's also where individuals can suffer real financial loss due to cybercrime.
How can we protect ourselves in general?
So the most important thing is, as we spoke about earlier, is awareness. Understanding the threats that is out there in the digital world is very important. Once we understand those threats, how they work, and have an understanding for them, applying vigilance, ensuring that we apply those concepts that we have been taught during these awareness sessions, etc. And some of those concepts include, double-checking really everything. So when you are going to a website, make sure that the URL that you are going to is the correct one. Verify things like logos when you are interacting with these websites, web applications, etc. Make sure that it's the correct logos. And another mechanism that I often use is to make sure that I use well-known, trusted websites and utilize links on those websites to get to the website where I would like to go. So a good example that we found earlier this week is there's a lot of fake malicious sites getting created in preparation for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. And a lot of those websites looks very similar to FIFA's website. They all look very legitimate. And it's easy for users to fall to those type of phishing attacks. So know that you can go to an organization's website like FIFA, and from there only utilize the links that they advertise for ticket sales, etc. Then, multi-factor authentication, ensuring that when you do authentication to web applications, to your banking, etc., make use of multi-factor authentication. So something you have, something you know, and something you are. So you can not only rely on usernames and passwords, because that is not secure anymore.
Now, how important is Cybersecurity Month in terms of objectives of companies? And this is talking about different companies such as yourselves. And what do you want to obtain?
So I think it's very important for individuals, once again, to understand that they are really an extension to their employer's security. So if people are negligent with their own personal devices and their own identities and credentials, it might impact their employer or some of the other systems that they interact with. So a good example of that would be a lot of individuals make use of their personal devices to access corporate systems, etc. If those devices are not secured properly, that may lead to credential theft. And when attackers then have the opportunity to purchase those credentials on the dark web, by extension, as I mentioned, they have the ability to log into that individual's employer's corporate systems, etc. So it is important for individuals to understand that it's not only their own information, they are part of a bigger system. And then really at the heart of Checkpoint is cybersecurity. In fact, that's all we have been doing for the past 30 years. So ensuring that our customers and the African continent at large is protected from cyber attacks is really what gets us up in the morning, and that is our true objective behind this.
And just very quickly in wrapping up, when we look at, earlier on you mentioned TikTok, and some of the safety features generally can be called into question, because once, say, an account is highlighted as being whether it's a phishing account and so on, you still will find that account still on that platform. How does it then work? Do these apps generally nobody seems to care, or is it just is the onus on individuals' use?
Yeah, I think very much it should be on us. We cannot rely on other people to secure our own cyberspace, if you want to call it that. They do, the TikToks and the Facebooks, etc. They do what they can within regulations and policies, etc. But oftentimes, with the ability that AI gives us, it's very quick to create new content, to create new websites, to create new social media accounts, etc. So it is very difficult for these organizations to also actively monitor and proactively control when these new accounts are created, etc. So the onus, although they do take ownership, the onus is still very much on the individual to ensure their own safety.
Well, Hendrik, it was a pleasure chatting to you, and thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. That's Hendrik the Brain, head of the SADC Security Consulting Checkpoint Software Technologies, joining us on the line. It is 12:56 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on DSTV's Audio Bouquet Channel 802, OpenView Channel 628, and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app, available on the Apple and Google Play stores. And today on hashtag Africa Update Ask, we focus on South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa having called on Israel to release those abducted after Israeli authorities intercepted boats carrying aid to Gaza. Ramaphosa says the interception in international waters off the coast of Gaza reinforces Israel's continued violation of international law and infliction of suffering, including starvation, on the people of Palestine. And we're asking you today, what message do you have for the Israeli government and those who are part of the flotilla? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406 9126. Hashtag Africa Update Us.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Well, it is that time of the day, and we say happy Thursday to Ntsako Mhlanga, who is today holding the fort on the upside. How are you today?
I'm as lovely as you are, Lulu.
Fabulous. So what's coming up today?
So we need to, obviously easing up to the festive season that's coming up. A lot of people are feeling that year-end fatuku, the year-end fatigue.
Yeah, it came in very quickly, hey?
It did. I think mine started in February, but it's fine. But we need to talk about what it looks like across the generations. We have about 5 generations that are currently existing. We've got the boomers, the Gen X, the Gen Alphas, Gen Zs, and fatigue comes out looking different for all the generations. So we're going to be unpacking that. And then, in the retail space, whenever you own a store, it's very important for you to be able to diversify. And we're going to be unpacking a store that is doing exactly that. We have a store that is flipping their fashion into art. Ooh. And they have their art displayed by the window, which is a very retail way of looking at the art industry. So we're going to be looking at that. Perhaps maybe the pricing is becoming more competitive. We need to look at also the market and what's influencing that decision. And then later on, we're going to be talking about how to dress modestly.
Okay, what is
I'm the complete opposite of that.
what is dressing modestly? Yeah.
Less is more.
It's a very tricky one because modesty for everyone is probably totally different.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Just, I guess it depends on individuals.
Absolutely.
So who are you going to be speaking to on that?
Yes, so we're going to be unpacking that. We're going to be speaking to a fashion designer who kind of speaks to the modest dressing. I'm looking at it from a religious perspective, but not necessarily anymore. Women are actually choosing to cover up. Yeah. People are choosing to kind of dress respectfully, and just from a personal point of view and kind of looking at it from a fashion trend point of view. So it's going to be fun. I'm going to be your lunch babe.
Yeah. Right. That's the upside coming up at the top of the hour with Ntsako Mhlanga. And for myself, Lulu Gaboo and the Africa Update team, it's been a great day. Continue with us on our socials. And thank you to our producer, Tracy Bumgard, our technical operator, Ndando Lutuli, social media, Sfiso Hlope, and Talent Butelezi. Let's leave it this way, and we will do this again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
SABC News.